What's up, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. This is episode number 23, and today we're going to discuss returning to running after the winter, or after just if you've been out of it for a small while, especially because the gyms have closed. So some of the topics I'm going to discuss today is going to be, I'm going to talk about goals and what your goals are when you are actually getting back to running, and then I'm going to talk a small bit on do couch to 5Ks work, and then on top of that I'm going to go into detail on recovery and scheduling and load management as well. So if anyone is into running, if you're into sport and you want to get back training in pre-season, I know it's from right now it's the end of February, so it's around about the time, and I know there's a lockdown still on, but it's around about the time that people are going to start getting back into things, if you haven't gotten back into it already. So it's good for anyone who just wants to get a better understanding of how to prevent injury and how to get the best out of your return to sport. Now, before I jump into it, I want to talk a small bit about my foundational mobility program that's out at the moment. So it is a 6-week program that has 5 daily workouts, and it goes through breathing, strength, mobility, and it's focused around improving strength and mobility around the hips, back and shoulders. And with that, the sessions take around about 20 to 25 minutes, small bit longer to start just while you're getting used to the videos and that, but once you get the hang of the videos and you know what the exercises are, you'll fly through the sessions themselves. And then they'll also give you a beginner and advanced, so they'll give you ideas of how to progress your mobility yourself when you finish up with the program. If you want to, you can obviously continue on for another 6 weeks at the advanced level, but it will give you more ideas of exercises and how to adapt them. And it goes into a small bit of detail on sleep and improving hydration, as well as improving mobility and general movement throughout the day. And then also on top of that, I'm going to be taking on more clients at the start of March, one-to-one clients. So if you have any long-term injuries and you finally want to take the time to take a couple of weeks to actually get them right and get yourself back in order again, if you want to take this year by the head, this is the right time to do it. So if anyone is interested in that, get in contact with me at mobilitytutor@gmail.com, and we can discuss and see if I'm the right fit for you. So to discuss returning to running, one of the most important things is figuring out what your goals are. Now, I'm not a running coach specifically, so I'm going to look at this more from an injury prevention side of things as opposed to a strictly performance side of things. I would say let's look at your goals first. And some of those goals would be, for a lot of people, are going to be obviously to get fit and to lose weight. And then obviously you have to look at what fitness is to you and what you want to achieve. And then other ones could be, you're getting back to sports, so you're getting back to playing GAA or rugby or soccer or anything like that, and you want to get your fitness levels up for pre-season. So on top of that, then I should also say that one of the other reasons that I hear people getting into running a lot is because the gyms are closed at the moment. They might have limited equipment at home, and they want to just keep fit while they're off the gym. So if we're looking at getting fit and losing weight, consistency is obviously going to be your most important thing over mileage. So being able to get out and run maybe 3 days a week for 6 to 8 weeks is going to be a lot better than trying to run 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 K and then do that once a week or twice a week and then stop after 2 weeks. So consistency is going to be the most important part of that if you're trying to get fit and lose weight. And obviously you have to define what fitness is to you as well, and what you want to achieve, because having an open-ended goal like getting fit, it can be hard to stick to in the long run, because at what stage do you realize that you are fit, and at what stage do you realize you've achieved where you wanted to get to? So maybe it could be like running a marathon, something like that. Now, if you're returning to sport or returning to play, you're looking at consistency as well, but you need to be obviously progressing all the time, and a lot of the time these are the same across the board, but it's going to be consistency with a progression and a plan. Because when you're returning to sport, you could be returning in, let's say it's February now, they're talking about getting sport back at the end of April, probably closer to May. So you want to be having a plan that it's like an 8 to 12 week plan. You know what you're trying to achieve by the end of it, instead of just running 5Ks mindlessly for the next 6 to 8 weeks and then losing all interest in that, and let's say increasing your risk of injury, or even just increasing your risk of, I wouldn't say burnout specifically, but burnout in terms of it just gets boring to do, so you can't stick with it. So consistency with a progression that you're increasing it over time and a plan, but then you also want to introduce some type of sprinting, because if you're going to be running like that, you don't exactly, now you run long distance on the field, and everyone knows you probably cover between, depends in like a GA game or a soccer game, you'd be covering between 6 to 10 kilometers in a game, Some people cover even more than that. So it's obviously important to have that aerobic base, but you'll need an anaerobic base as well. And anaerobic is more to do with sprinting. Okay, so you need to actually train sprinting as well, and training short sprints and long sprints. So you can mix that in. So it does, if that is the plan, and as I said, these work across the board. If that is your plan, you would be looking up to build your aerobic base, but then to prevent your risk of having, let's say, hamstring injuries and knee injuries and back injuries and stuff like that, you want to introduce type of exercises or type of movements that you're going to be doing in a game. So that would be like sprinting and turning and jumping and landing. Now, the last one is if you are, let's say before Christmas or whenever you had the opportunity last to be in the gym and to be working out, and now you fell off that because the gyms are closed, so you got out of the gym and you want to kind of keep your fitness up while you're out of the gym, and you want to, let's say you know you're going to be back in there in the next 8 weeks, and you want to just get it up to a certain level and get your body fat percentage down to a certain level or keep it at a certain level, then you're looking obviously at consistency, but you want to be, because the gym is a challenging environment and it's an interesting environment in that there's so many things you can do in there, you want to keep consistent, but you want to be challenging yourself as well. So you're looking at, and what I mean by that is you're looking at changing your distance, changing your speed, similar to what it's like to return to sport, and introducing things like hill sprints and long and short distance runs, because that way you're getting an all-round or close to an all-round challenge in the body, as opposed to like when you're in the gym, you are squatting, you're deadlifting, you're doing this, you might be doing high intensity stuff. So it's important to change it up as well, because it will keep you interested in it if you are able to change it up. So moving on from there, I want to talk about a Couch to 5K, and do Couch to 5K exercise programs work? So in my opinion, I feel they do work, and I'd be biased towards any type of challenge like that, because I feel that they're an excellent way of getting people to start exercising again. So I feel they do work once they're followed correctly, and once you look at it holistically and you don't just look at getting out and doing the run every day. Now I know, because, and I say this because I've had clients in the past who have tried things like this and then they've ended up with all these injuries and they've given up halfway through it. And a lot of the time it's because they get into the mode of it and they're loving it and they're trying to do everything, but then they're also trying to do a load of other stuff at the same time. So they might be trying to gym or do like exercise, high intensity stuff at home 5 days a week, and then they're including their Couch to 5K as well. And they might be like with a lot of people, and see, this is the thing, just there's two populations here. Some people struggle just to have the motivation to get up and do it. Other people have too much motivation and they overdo it, and then they end up injuring themselves in the third week. And it's usually around about the second to third week that people injure themselves in these things because they up their load too fast. So I think they're an excellent way of getting people exercising. You just have to be cautious about how you approach it and be smart when you are doing it, that you're looking at everything around it. Now, Couch to 5K is an example in that it obviously you start from doing nothing at all and you build your way up. But jumping from that to people who start running 5Ks, and in the first lockdown you could see this, like people were posting times that were close to world record times. Obviously they weren't running those, but people going out running 5Ks 3-4 days a week that haven't done it before and hoping that they'll get fit doing that. First, you're going to tire yourself out so much, and second, you're going to increase your risk of injury. So there's a few things to look at, and some of the main problems which I'll go through now is that a lot of people do too much too soon. So they'll, as I was saying, they might go for 2 or 3 5Ks in a week, and then the next week they won't do anything because they're so sore, or they've injured themselves from doing it. So too much too soon is as bad as doing too little. Okay, and what I would say to those is make out a plan that you're going to follow, and then take note of how you're feeling every day. So if your fatigue levels are extremely high, if you're getting up and you're in the morning and you're really, really fatigued and you're feeling tired and you're unmotivated, sometimes it could be better than to scribble out a session and put it later in the week, but making sure that you do get it in later in the week, obviously. Now, that's one of the main ones, and see how the body's feeling. If the body's feeling run down and you're really struggling to get through it and your times are dropping significantly, so let's say if you run your 5K first in 25 minutes and then your next one is going up to 30 minutes or 35 minutes, the body is probably starting to get a bit run down, and you probably should have given it a few more days of recovery before you keep on top of it, or before you keep doing them. Okay, so if you're seeing a drastic change in your time, you're probably doing too much. So it's really, really important to take time to actually recover, because the body needs to recover. You can't just keep loading it with stuff and hoping that it'll keep going and it'll keep progressing. So even elite athletes, although they are training so often and they're training, let's say 3-4 days a week, they're not training intensely high 3 or 4 days a week. Like, they have it planned out, so they'll have a high session and then they might have a low session, they might have a high session again, or they could have high sessions at the start of the week, low sessions midweek, and then they know they have a match at the weekend. So they do change it like that. They are very strict with their training plans, and it's important to be like that when you're at that level, obviously. So on top of that, and on top of your increase in activity, I would say an increase in activity like that, if you're going to be going for 5Ks, it needs to coincide with an increase in your diet and your like sleep, let's say, or your recovery time. So taking the time to like looking at your protein targets, if you're up in your exercise activity a lot, but you're not up in your protein, you're breaking down, but you're not giving it a chance to build back up again. And if you're doing that, then you will, basically the body's going to get injured. And it's the easiest way to injure, it's the fastest way to injury is by overworking and overreaching, and then not giving it enough time to just relax down again. Okay. So on top of that, I should say, and I'm going to go into a small bit more as I go through it, stress is a big one as well. And stress is not akin to a recovery state. So even though, and that's psychological stress as well. So you will think of the body as physiological stress when you're running, but psychological stress can also play in on your recovery, and it can affect your recovery. So moving on from there, how would you manage your load better? Now, if you're returning to running, there's loads of things you can do, and there's a really simple method that people follow, and this is more for people who have a history of running in the past. So if you're brand new, or if you're new to running, you might not follow this rule as much. But if you have a good base running, and let's say if you're playing field sports at a fairly high level, you could probably use this method and you could work it into your program. But you'd obviously have to adapt it, and it's obviously not strict, but it's a 10% method is what they call it, 10% rule. So what you're doing is you're increasing your mileage or your kilometer by 10% every week. Okay, so you're increasing it on the week before. So if you run a 10K one week, you're running the next week, you're going to run 11K. Okay, and you need to look at it over the whole week. So it's not that you're running a 5K and then you're running a 5.5. So if you're running 3 5Ks in a week, that means you're running 15K that week. So the next week then overall you're running 15K, you want to increase it by 10%. So you're going to run 16.5. Okay, because it's 1.5 and you add that on. Now this is as you look up the chain, you look at higher level runners, they use this a bit more effectively, but there's obviously a stopping point or ceiling to that as well, because you can't just keep increasing. You have to have rest weeks. So it can be very effective to use this 10% if you have a good running history and you have a good training history, but it's general advice. So you have to also take into account how you're feeling and how the body's feeling and what your injury history is like and what other stuff you're doing, your gym, and what your stress levels are like as well. But a really simple one would be that 10% mileage increase each week. Now, another thing to manage your load better would be introducing rest days and having planned rest days and planned active recovery days as well. So let's say you're running on the Monday, I would say, and like I'm this is general now, I'm not picking out a very specific population here, but really general advice that you can apply to yourself would be, if you're running on a Monday, taking a recovery day on the Tuesday and going through, let's say, a movement or a mobility routine to recover. Then on a Wednesday, see what you're feeling like. If you're feeling like you're probably still a bit run down, you could take that as another recovery day and then go on the Thursday. But what a lot of people do is they'll go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and if it works for you and you take the weekend off, that's perfect, as long as your sleep is good over the weekend. If you're going Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then you're hitting the town hard on Friday and Saturday night, and you're dying all Sunday recovering, trying to catch up, and then you go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, then you're burning the candle from both ends. So you're not giving it enough time. You're giving it 1 day recovery in between runs. That's okay. It's not like it depends on your level, obviously, but it can work for a lot of people. But then when the Monday rolls around to the next week, when the Friday rolls around, let's say, and you're out and you're drinking and you're not sleeping properly, and then on Sunday you're not sleeping properly as well, and Monday rolls around, then you can get caught then. And you probably get away with it for 2 to 3 weeks, but on the 4th week, the body will really start feeling the effects of that. So it's important. You can go Monday, Wednesday, Friday if your sleep is perfect at the weekend and it's good. Otherwise, you're looking to break it down. Maybe start with 2 runs a week, and then start with two runs a week. So let's say a 3K and a 4K, and then you're increasing it then the next week again. So you might go to a 4K and a 4K, and then the week after, then you might go a 4, 4, and a 2. Okay, so I'd even drop it more, and I'd say a 4, 3, and a 2. And that way you're getting an extra session in, and you're building up your tolerance, you're building up your capacity, but you're not running the same distance all the time, so you're dropping it back. Now, if you're new to running, and if you're brand new and you haven't done any running before, then it's not important to increase your mileage every week, because you don't need that progressive overload all of the time, because the body is going to take time to adapt to that. Okay, so it could be better than to just keep it the same for 3 to 4 weeks until you get comfortable running a certain distance, and then apply that same rule of you might run a 3K and a 3K and a 2K, and then you might increase that to a 333, or you might run 2 at the start and then introduce a third one in the second or third week. And then once you get used to running that, then you might up one to like a 4K then, and then run 2 2s, or you could up it to a 5K and run a 3 and a 2. So that way you're not upping everything together. You're upping, let's say, 1, and then you're taking 2 that are lower intensity days, or you are running 2 high intensity days and you're increasing your rest day. So you're taking an extra day off. So that's another way of doing it if you're new to it. And then on top of that, you're actually looking to, because the body needs time to same as when you're working out in the gym, the body needs time to adapt fully. So you should be scheduling rest weeks every, let's say, depending on your level, obviously, every between the 4 and 8 week mark, but really between the 6 and 8 week mark, you should be looking towards lowering your intensity for a week. And that's just looking at periodization, because the body needs time to adapt, and it gives you a bit of time to recover. Now, when you do come back off that rest week, and this is for everyone, this is from beginner, intermediate, advanced, when you do come back from that rest week, you might have to drop your mileage back just for a week or 2, but then it will come back up to the same amount. So you might not be able to run, let's say if you were running 35k or 40k over the whole week, you might need to bring it back to 25k, and then after the first or second week, then you're going to 30k, 35, and back up. You don't have to start from 25 and increase it by 10% every week, because your body would adapt a lot quicker. The same as strength training. When you step out of strength training for a few weeks and you get back into it, it's the nervous system adaptation is what you're looking to get back again, and the nervous system reactivity. So the nervous system is going to be the first thing that'll adapt. That's why the first session back can be tough. Second session can be tough. Third one gets a small bit easier. Fourth gets easier again, and so on so forth, I should say. So you actually do get the strength benefits. Like a lot of your strength comes back within the first week or 2, and even if you're off training for a few months, a lot of your strength will come back in the first 3 to 4 weeks, because you have it built up already, and it's really a nervous system that just needs to be adapted again. Outside of that, then we're actually looking at your recovery methods and what you're doing to recover, so the body has the best chance to recuperate at the end of the week or in the middle of the week. And really, you're getting your recovery right is looking at your sleep and your hydration, your stress management stuff, your diet and mobility and movement, exercise or mobility and movement plan. But that can also be, you could also say your active recovery as well. So when looking at your sleep, the same rule applies across the board. Your sleep should be 7 to 8 hours. Now, if you're a significant increase in your training, and let's say you're really training for a marathon or something like that, it could be beneficial to introduce naps at a certain time of the day as well. Or at lunchtime. I wouldn't say a certain time of day, I would say around about lunchtime. And that could just be an adjunct to your recovery as well. But getting your sleep right, and your sleep quality and your sleep quantity. Just sleeping 7 hours but having a shite sleep isn't going to be much good for you. So getting your sleep quality right, and looking at sleep quality, then there's loads of things you can do. You have to obviously have certain behaviors that you have to do before you go to bed, so that your body is in the right state to actually go to sleep. You're also looking at, like, let's say, reducing your caffeine as well, not having any caffeine late into the day, because that's going to affect the stages of sleep that you can get into. On top of that, I would say look at like the temperature of a room as well. It should be between 18 and 20 degrees. It's like optimal sleeping temperature and that. So there's a lot of things you can look at with your sleep, and getting your sleep right is going to be really important. And I have a podcast on sleep already. So if you want to go back and check that out, it's probably 1 or 2, could be 3 even. Anyway, it's one of those. And you can check it out, and I go into a bit more detail of how to improve it there. So sleep is really important, quality and quantity. And then I should say, touch on that as well. There's also things you can do for your breath and your breath work as well. And if you're sleeping with your mouth open, that's going to affect your sleep. And if you're snoring, that's going to affect your sleep. So there's a lot of things you can look at. And if anyone has any questions on that, just get in contact with me and I'll see if I can help you out with that. Now, hydration is going to be hugely important because you're going to be sweating so much more. You're going to be losing a lot more water. You need to take it on. You need to take it in because H2O is involved in so many processes in the body, and we're made up of whatever it is, 95% water and that. So getting enough water in every day is really important, and having the right amount of water to your weight is really important. So just drinking 2 liters a day isn't enough for a lot of people, especially if you're over 55 kilo. 2 liters a day is what it should be. Is around about your average of what you have to be drinking every day. Once you go above 55 kilo body weight I'm talking about, then your hydration has to increase significantly. So I have a podcast also on hydration. Check that out, and I'll go into a lot more detail on exactly what you should be drinking and what you can use recovery drinks as well. And that was only a few ago, so that was probably 4 or 5 podcasts ago. Then outside of that, you're looking at your diet, increasing your protein. Diet is not my strong point at all, but your protein should be in and around about 2.0 or 1.6, 2.0 if you're going to be increasing your running significantly. So that's 1.6 grams per kilo up to 2.6 grams of protein per kilo. So if you are a 70 kilo runner, you should be taking in around about 125 to 140 grams of protein a day to make sure that you're keeping on enough protein and that you're able to adapt to what you're doing. Now, this is more at the end of, I'm looking at more high level stuff. So when you're doing a lot of running, that's why when you need to be hitting these targets. And then obviously your carbs as well. I'm no nutritionist, so I'm not going to go into massive detail, but your carbs are going to be really important as well, and making sure that you're taking in enough of those, or just taking in enough calories overall, because you're going to be burning so many. And then it comes back to your goals and what your goals are again. So I don't want to be going around in circles with that. There's people more qualified than me when it comes to nutrition, and they'll give you a better idea on what to do. But because obviously if you're looking to lose weight, you need to be in a deficit. If you're looking to add weight, you need to be in surplus, all that crack, but I won't go into it now. Stress management then is a huge one. And the reason I say it's a big one is because your body, your nervous system, and I've talked extensively about this on other podcasts, but your nervous system works in a parasympathetic and a sympathetic is kind of your two things. And that's a fight or flight or rest and digest. And it's not that one is on and the other one's off. It's that you have higher tone in one. So let's say if you had a diet, it's turned up towards turned up towards sympathetic, which is fight or flight if you're stressed out, and if you are relaxed and you're chilling out, it's turned down closer to your rest and digest. And with that, if you are in a fight or flight state, the body doesn't prioritize recovery. The body prioritizes evasion or combat. So it prioritizes getting out of a situation. And when it's doing that, it actually works down the chain in that it holds on to nutrients, and it holds on to different things so that your body isn't getting a full recovery. And it, as I say, it doesn't prioritize recovery. It doesn't prioritize recuperation or building or growing, because it's in a fight or flight state. So it needs to get out of there. So that could be psychological stress. It could be obviously physiological stress, but psychological stress is a big one. And that could be if you are, let's say, in a stressful job that you take home with you and you never shut off from it, or if I know people are working at home now, and that's a big thing as well. So that's going to play into it as well. But making sure that you have stress management tools, that you're able to relax yourself down and help yourself really calm down. And that could be anything from, it could be like a breathing technique, it could be meditation, it could be journaling, anything to switch off for a small while. Definitely not a good one to do to switch off would be like going on your phone, because that doesn't help you switch off. That drags your concentration or pulls your concentration towards things. Another really effective stress management tool is mobility and movement training, because it helps you relax down that tone. It brings you into a more relaxed state, brings that, as I said, that sympathetic tone down, and it promotes recovery because you're improving your circulation around all your joints and improving the delivery of nutrients to your joints as well. So having a simple mobility and movement routine that you can do on your rest days and you can do before and after your sessions is going to be really important, because it's going to help the body, as I said, it's going to help the body heal in general, okay, because it's relaxing it down. So looking into a couple of exercises that work for you, looking into maybe building a routine that you do every morning or every evening, and then having maybe a different one that you do in your days off, it's also going to be really important. And this is really when you are returning to running and returning to play, because of the fact that you are in high alert all the time when you're doing your runs and you're going to work, and that it's nice to just sit down on the ground and take that bit of time to go through and let the body work itself out and let the body heal. And that brings me on to the last thing. If you are looking for that a structured thing, you can obviously go on my Instagram page. I have loads of exercises on that, but if you're looking for a more structured one, you can check out that foundational mobility, and it's on my website. And that's just, it'll give you an idea of how to structure your sessions. But guys, that's everything I wanted to go through today. I just wanted to talk through a small bit about some of the issues that people have when they start running or when they get back running. I want to talk about managing load better and planning rest days and how to do that properly. And then I also wanted to talk about having a gradual return to running as opposed to just doing too much too fast. Lastly, I wanted to discuss recovery and what it looks like, or what you should be doing to recover. And I have done another podcast on physical recovery strategies a few back, so you can check that out as well. It's around about the 12 to 15 mark. I'm sorry, I'm awful. I don't know the numbers. I should really get to know them, but it's around about the 12 to 15 mark. So if you want to go back and have a look at that. So I would say if anyone is interested, check out the podcast on sleep, which is in the first 5. Check out the podcast on recovery strategies, which is between that 12 to 15 mark. And I would also say there was one more that I mentioned, the hydration one as well. So check that out. That was in the last 5 podcasts, so you can check it out. It's probably, I'm going to just off the top of my head, I'm going to say 16, but it could be 17 or 18. But yeah, guys, that's everything I wanted to discuss today. If anyone has any questions, you can send me an email at mobilitytutor@gmail.com. You can also get in contact with me through Instagram. Is probably the quickest way. But yeah, I would also love if you could rate this if you're listening to it on iTunes. If you subscribe and rate, or put a rating or add a comment at whatever you feel, whatever you think if it benefited you. And the most important thing, or the best thing that you can do for me, is if you send it to a friend who would be interested in it, because that word of mouth is the best way to is the best way to promote the podcast. Or I should say, even on social media, if you were to repost on social media, that goes a long way as well. But yeah, guys, that's everything from me today. Thanks a million for listening. I hope everyone's doing well with the way things are going, and hopefully we'll be out of this lockdown soon enough, and we'll be back living a normal life. But yeah, that's everything. Have a good one, guys.